Today's Q&A is sponsored by Corsair and their new Dominator Platinum RGB DDR4 memory available in white. That's right, the Dominator Platinum memory is now available in white, but if that's not unique enough for you, allowing you to further customize the memory are a dozen ultra-bright, individually addressable X RGB LEDs mounted in the top of the modules. Corsair also has a wide range of kits available, including 16, 32, 64, and even 128GB capacities, with speeds ranging from 3200 to 4800 MHz. So for more information, please check the link in the video description. Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed. It's that time of the month again. It's Q&A time. I can't believe it. We are already in August. Can you believe that, Tim?
It feels like just yesterday we filmed the July Q&As, but I can guarantee we did not do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird year to say the least.
Yeah.
And that's understating it big time. But yeah, I guess for some people it's been drawn out, but I can't believe we're in August. Anyway.
Yeah, it's gone quick. But I think we have some questions to get to.
We do. Well, you sorted them this month.
Yep.
So Tim's been hard at work going through the many hundreds of questions that we were asked, but he's got a good set here, so we should probably get into it. Actually, before we do, an important question for you, Tim. First of all, is my monitor facing the right way?
Yep. You're facing towards the camera. I made sure I've given you prime position on this side.
Okay, good. What box or company am I shilling for this time?
Well, there's no box shilling. So I think last month we had you with an Asus monitor and then like a Corsair box because there wasn't enough height on the monitor. I ditched that monitor. I've upgraded you. Last time you were on measly 1080p, so that's what peasant quality these days. I've upgraded you to king quality 4K with this Nixius monitor. 4K 144 hertz actually, so you're getting both. That's
going to set my webcam off and make it look fantastic.
That upscaling of 240p Skype to 4K is looking real nice.
Beautiful. All right, well, now that we've got all that settled, time to get down to business. Let's get into these questions.
Let's do it.
All right. Ready for the first question, Tim?
I'm very much ready. Let's go.
All right. Is your mustache ready? Because apparently they want to know, is Tim's mustache a COVID fling or a long-term thing? What is it, Tim?
Well,
tell us all about it. Give us the full history.
So there's been a lot of discussion, let's say, on the old mustache.
Yeah, people have noticed?
I think people
You've changed
have
a thing. You've changed a thing about your face and people have noticed and then even commented on it.
I know, it's crazy.
Really?
It's hard to believe, but yeah, some people are really just really interested in my facial hair for some reason. So the reason why I have this is I did this to troll my girlfriend one day after she came back from work. I was like, I wonder what she'd think of if I did a crazy mustache. But then I had to film a video shortly after that. So then it kind of went into the video and I guess, well, now I'm stuck with it for life. So yeah, that's pretty much how it's going, I guess.
It's now its own living sort of entity, just like Steve from Gamers Nexus's hair. It's now Tim's mustache.
Yeah, if I'm going to shave it, I guess it'll have to be some special occasion or something like that. Yeah. So we'll think about that in the future. But it's staying for now, not just COVID thing, I guess.
It's a seriously thick mustache. I said to Tim, it's an alpha of the mustaches. It's alphaing my mustache.
All right, Steve, got one for you here. How much benefit could we see from DDR5 memory? We've seen reports of DDR5 memory going up to 8400 megahertz, so I guess actually MTs, but I feel this would be well past the point of diminishing returns. So yeah, what's your opinion on DDR5?
Well, how much benefit could we see from DDR5? It's kind of one of those things like everything else comes along. Like we've got core heavy processors now. Those cores look a bit faster. Faster memory will benefit them. It's really hard to say though. It sort of comes as a full package deal really. So once we've got DDR5, that's obviously the point in time which we'll be ready for it. And point of diminishing returns, again, like no idea. We've got to do DDR5 memory scaling benchmarks. It'll depend on the CPUs and the applications of the games and how much they're using the memory and all that kind of stuff that we typically do. But really, this isn't something you need to worry about right now. Worry about it when you're actually faced with having to buy DDR5 memory and you need to know what sort of speed you really want, a combination between frequency and timings, all that sort of stuff that we usually go over. And even now we've seen that Intel processors, timings aren't as important. You're better off going with looser timings and higher frequency, whereas tightening up the timings and frequency isn't. So you want to prioritize, tightening the timings for Ryzen and not so much going for crazy frequencies because of the way the Infinity fabric works and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, let's just wait and see, and we'll answer that question with a video in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think one area it could benefit is with your sort of APU style things with integrated graphics.
Yep.
Obviously, your discrete GPU has access to a lot of bandwidth with GDDR memory, but you don't get as much on the DDR front. So if they could double or even increase beyond that the memory bandwidth to an APU, then suddenly you can put in a much more powerful GPU into that product without limiting it on memory bandwidth. So that's one potential exciting aspect. But yeah, I agree with the rest of what you said. I think it's a good summary.
All right, next one here. Any thoughts on the lack of competition for DLSS? Do you think RDNA 2 will have a comparable solution, deep learning supercomputer, and require hardware, so tensor cores, etc.? Seems like a Tim question, that one. What are your thoughts on that, Tim?
Yeah, so I don't think it's that concerning right now because there's not a lot of games that support DLSS right now. So it's kind of still in its infancy. So that allows other companies room to at least, be thinking about developing the solutions for whether that's their current GPUs or next gen GPUs or whatever the situation is. I don't really think it's too much of a big deal with this generation, the sort of Turing RDNA first gen generation. But I think that AMD will definitely need something with this upcoming generation. So sort of your RTX 3000 series RDNA 2, I think DLSS will become more important then because, there should be more games that use it and it seems easier to integrate in something like ray tracing. So I think that, that AMD needs to do something. The question is, will they have something? And I think even if they don't have tensor cores, it should be possible for them to have an AI solution, but it does seem like NVIDIA's done like a lot of work into their solution. They've bought the server space or developed the servers to run all the AI networking related stuff that is required for it. So whether or not AMD wants to invest in all that technology to get, AMD version of DLSS in their GPUs, well, that remains to be seen. That said, I don't think they need tensor cores or something specific like that. We've seen TVs that also do AI upscaling, pretty good AI upscaling actually, not your sort of just low quality tier stuff, but some stuff that's almost as good as DLSS in some TVs. And that just is done on, they don't have a GPU in them, they just have like a little dedicated scaling chip. So whether they do that, whether there's a GPU side solution, but I think that we've seen AMD be up for the fight with these technologies whenever NVIDIA does something like reducing input lag, or even AMD leading in some of those fields like input lag, like sharpening. So I think that, I think there will be something and they will need something, but again, we're sort of before the launch of RDNA 2, so we're not really sure what they're going to bring to the table yet. Next question, when it comes to multitasking, which has a greater impact on performance, more memory or more cores? So what do you reckon about this one?
Bit of a chicken and egg situation, this one. I guess you could really benchmark this to favor one or the other. Like you could set up a multitasking benchmark that requires a lot of memory or one that requires a lot of cores, because it depends what the various multitasking applications are doing as to whether they need a lot of cores or a lot of memory. Ideally, you want both, really, depending on what you're doing, like I said. So I don't think there's any way to answer this. I don't think saying memory or more cores is accurate for a broad range of multitasking scenarios. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends on sort of what type of multitasking you're talking about. Obviously, more cores is going to be better if you're doing a lot of like active multitasking, like, rendering something and then using other applications at the same time, or maybe you're doing something that's using 4 threads or cores, then you want to do another thing that uses 4 threads or cores at the same time, then more cores is going to be important there. But I think what a lot of people mean when they talk about multitasking is like, I'm running Photoshop and then I'm switching over to run Chrome. I'm keeping Photoshop open, but I'm only really using one active application at a time. And in that situation, you probably want more memory because you want to have all that stuff open and able to switch between. So I think it just depends.
Memory's
really.
the key. Memory's definitely the key, because no matter whether it's a core-heavy sort of multitasking scenario or not, you still need the memory, because as soon as you start switching without enough memory, it's going to page file. It's just
it's horrible.
A stuttery mess, and not great. So, but really, both.
Yeah.
So, do you think Nvidia is paying attention to the lower end of GPUs? Do you think that all of their time so far has been spent trying to make their highest end as powerful as possible? So, seems with Turing, it seems like they've covered all bases pretty well. I mean, the GTX 1650 wasn't great. The 1650 Super was a decent recover, but I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely making products in those categories. It's just a matter of whether they're worth buying or not. As you said, like a 1650 is not a particularly amazing entry-level GPU, but they have one there and it's using their latest architecture. So I think NVIDIA's focus is definitely always going to be on higher margin products, which is going to be higher end stuff. They want to sell you more 2080 Ti type products because they can make a lot more money doing that. But at the same time, they need to remain relevant across the entire market. So I think that there's some truth in this statement or question, saying, have they spent all their time trying to make the highest and as powerful as possible? Yeah, of course they're going to be doing that. I think as well, part of this comes down to competition. What you see in the entry level is a flow-on effect from what's happening higher up. If there's really strong competition at the high end, that pushes pricing down further and further throughout the rest of the line over time. And really, there hasn't been a lot of that. We were just talking on the live stream about how almost it's just mid-range that's received a lot of the competition. You sort of 2060, 2070 or 5700 XT type range that is pretty competitive, and then the rest is kind of just a bit forgotten. So once we start to see much more competition at the high end, that should flow down. I think NVIDIA will start paying a lot more attention to those lower end parts.
Yeah, well, they obviously focus on the high end because they develop a high end product and an architecture that then they scale down to more affordable price points. And they go for that Halo type product, the flagship type product, because that sells the lower end products. So even if they're not great in terms of price to performance with maybe competing products, those Halo products help sell them because it's the brand power. Yeah,
that's a really good point. So they don't necessarily need to make like the best outright product. And I think we've seen most companies, the better value lower end product at the moment is not necessarily the better product when it launched. Something like a 580, it was a pretty good product when it launched, but now it's so much better value because pricing has come down over time. So even if they release a new low end, we've focused on this GPU, I wouldn't expect it to be the best, screaming good value like a 570 or 580 is. But over time, as we've been saying, competition and all that sort of thing will have some effect, hopefully at least.
All right, next question here. Should Nvidia delay their RTX 3000 series launch for better optimization or to better optimize the product line? I'm sure nobody wants a 400-watt space heater, even if it's 50% faster than the 2080 Ti. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I'm pretty sure the focus really is on, performance. I think the focus is on price to performance, power consumption, efficiency is, third in there, maybe not even that.
Yep.
So really, if these things are screaming fast and the prices are somewhat reasonable, I think they're going to sell well regardless of how much heat they produce or how much power they consume. I don't think that really matters too much. What do you reckon, Tim?
Yeah, and I think the other thing for me is, this question is asking, should they delay the launch to better optimize it? I don't really see how they would optimize it. I mean, if they've already got a product and they've already chosen the node and they've produced it, I don't see how a delay would really affect the optimization all that much. It kind of is what it is. Maybe they could tweak the clocks a little bit, but that's only going to affect the performance as well. It kind of is set in stone at that point, unless they decide to completely redo the node that it's on or the design or something like that. So, I've seen a lot of these comments about 400-watt space heater and that sort of thing, but if the performance is there, I don't really see what the issue is with it consuming a lot of power. It's
100%.
If it's much more inefficient compared to competing products, then sure, you wouldn't want the space heater product. You'd want the efficient product, especially if heat is a big concern for you. But if we're talking 2080 Ti, which is already like a 250-watt card, isn't it? Or 300 watts, around that.
Yeah.
So if you take that and you add 50% performance and you make it a 400 watt card, I think a lot of people would still be interested in that. Because it's
all about performance.
Yeah, it's all about performance.
It's all about performance.
And as long as you can cool it, as long as it's not like throttling hard because of a bad cooler or something like that, then yeah.
Like if AMD comes out and they deliver a similar level of performance at significantly lower consumption, then it becomes a bit of a laughing stock. But until that happens, it's like that's what you're getting. So products that have got a bad name like Fermi or whatever in the past, they've been really hot, but they haven't been that fast. So
that's
it
the
hasn't
issue.
made sense.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah, it's all about performance. If it's 400 watts and it's screaming fast, no one's going to care.
Yeah, like
people are going to be.
People don't care that Threadripper CPUs use way more power than Ryzen, third gen Ryzen desktop parts.
Exactly.
Like it's just that's what you get when you want more performance. And I remember the days when everyone would use dual GPUs. Like no one was complaining about running like two 250 watt GPUs or two 200 watt GPUs.
They use so much power.
So
I mean,
that's died off, and that's not even that efficient of a design. Like SLI was not that good of a technology, and there were lots of games it didn't work in. And personally, I would much rather have the option to buy like a 400 or 500 watt single card that scales really well. You can use all that performance you're getting rather than running, dual GPUs, needing those 1,000 watt power supplies, putting out a lot of heat. So, I think it's not that bad of a solution, and something that's, people are going to complain about it, but I don't think it's that warranted, in my opinion, at least.
No, I don't think so either.
We've got a bit of a follow-up to our discussion just then on 400-watt RTX GPUs. Do you think Samsung's 8nm node will compromise NVIDIA Ampere yields and performance? Do you think NVIDIA will try and switch back to TSMC as soon as possible, making Ampere old very soon? Seems that Jensen wants the performance crown at all costs, pushing TDP up to 400 watts. AMD should grab this magic and unrepeatable moment. So, as far as we know, Samsung 8nm is not confirmed, so let's just assume for a moment that this is true, but it's actually just a rumor or leak or whatever you want to call it at the moment. Again, it's kind of hard to say, isn't it? Because we don't really know what Samsung 8nm is going to bring. It seems from the technical discussion that you can read that it's perhaps not quite as competent or quality of a node as TSMC's 7nm, but it should still be around the mark, and it should still be an improvement on 12nm. So... will it compromise their yields and performance? I'm sure NVIDIA's been making all those decisions for a while now. They would have all the data on yields and what performance they can get, and in choosing 8nm from Samsung, if they do that, they've got all the data in front of them. They've made the decision for a reason. So perhaps that's price reason. Maybe it's more competitive. Maybe it has better yields. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see if because we know the big GPU, the data center one, is on TSMC 7nm. So, it'll be a very interesting situation if there's two different nodes running Ampere to see what sort of happens there and what they can do with each node with a similar sort of architecture. Lots of interesting stuff coming up there, I'd say.
Yep. I think it goes back to what we said before. As long as the performance is there, gamers do not care.
Yeah.
They just don't care.
You can make it on 28nm if it delivered the best performance and best price.
If you're getting high frame rates at like 4K, 1440p, and the price is reasonable, whatever that means, then gamers aren't going to care.
And we've seen that before with stuff like the discussion with a product like the RX 580 for a long time was, this is a less efficient GPU than what NVIDIA has, but the price and performance is better. So that was always the dominating factor in why they got more recommendations. So similar thing will happen here if NVIDIA ends up having the inferior node. It's all about price and performance.
HDMI versus DisplayPort. Why don't TVs support DisplayPort? Our new consoles are coming with HDMI 2.1. Why aren't graphics cards coming with HDMI 2.1? It's kind of late, isn't it? Why don't consoles support DisplayPort?
Yeah, lots of little bits of pieces of questions in there. So let's answer the first one. So why don't TVs support DisplayPort? Well, I think this is mainly just a cost thing. They're already going to have to support HDMI because it's kind of the standard at this point, and they already want to have as many HDMI ports as they can afford because people buy TVs based on number of HDMI ports at some time. So adding a DisplayPort in is adding a cost to that unit. It's going to be in addition to any HDMI ports they have. And if you're a TV maker, there's not that many input devices that would necessarily use DisplayPort. Most laptops, all your consoles, your Blu-ray players, your home theater equipment's all going to use HDMI. So would you spend the extra money putting DisplayPort in? Probably not. And I think that explains a lot of why TVs don't have it. As for new consoles, why aren't graphics cards coming with HDMI 2.1? I would expect next-gen cards to support it. So that's we'll see on that one soon. And then why don't consoles support DisplayPort? I think this is the most valid question for me. I think that there's a lot of reason for a game console, especially the upcoming ones, to support DisplayPort, so that you could hook it up to existing monitors and get things like high refresh rates, high resolutions, adaptive sync, all these things that these next-gen consoles are supposed to support, already done on DisplayPort with the ecosystem of monitors that already exist. So I think if there's any of those products that need DisplayPort, it is definitely the consoles, but it doesn't seem like they're going to do it. So yeah, it's just kind of the way it is, I guess.
Are mechanical hard drives dead? Is there any scenarios where using them makes sense over SSD? Also, is RAID dead, as I wonder how two mechanical drives in RAID 1 compare to similarly priced / capacity SSDs? I don't think they're dead. What do you think, Tim?
No, I wouldn't have thought either of these things are dead. You can RAID SSDs. There's no issue there, so I wouldn't have thought there's much of an issue with RAID. For mechanical hard drives, they're dead as boot drives. Like no one these days is using a hard drive as a boot drive. You're just crippling your computer horribly in that sense. Yeah. But hard drives are far cheaper than SSDs for big amounts of storage. So if you don't need the speed, you just want to store lots of video files or stuff that we do, right? We don't necessarily need SSDs to store all of our archive footage. That's a great use case for hard drives where you can get, instead of paying for 1 terabyte of SSD space, you can get 8 or 10 terabytes of, hard drive space. So
yeah, it makes no sense to back up to an SSD. So yeah, as you say, for archiving or even for gamers, like a secondary gaming drive, it's fine to run games from a hard drive if you're not playing them a whole lot, or rather than delete and then re-download, move them to your hard drive, and then if you want to revisit that game, you can move the 80 to 100 gig or whatever it may be quickly back over to your SSD and play the game again. So yeah, backup, archive, all that kind of stuff, they're perfectly fine for all things that just don't need an SSD, like opening a Word document or something like that.
Yep. All right, so we're at the end of part 1 of the Q&A, and that means we're going to give another rapid-fire question round a go, because lots of you guys really liked the rapid-fire questions from last month. So we've got a few more sections to go for this one. So let's give it a go. Steve, I'll start with your first question. What sort of performance jump would you like to see from upcoming RTX 3000 and Big Navi?
100%. That's what I want to see. Give me 100%.
I'd like to see that too.
Yeah, I mean, 50%, the rumored 50% would be nice, but I want to see 100%. Give me that 100%. All right, Tim, is there any hope for VR? Do you think VR is dead?
It's probably been a bit slower than I think we've all liked, but I think there's probably still hope for it. Just needs more powerful stuff. Steve, when will you get the new Ryzen desktop APUs for testing? I think this was heavily upvoted.
When I can get my hands on them, probably when they're officially released and you can buy them.
Yep.
All right, Tim, what is the difference between the LG 27 GL850 and the LG 27 GL83A?
I like how you're struggling with those names there. I think we all struggle with them. Yeah, this was heavily upvoted as well, and the main difference is just 27 GL850 has that wider color gamut. The GL83A is just sRGB, so that's the price difference there. Okay, another one for you, Steve. RTX 3000 cards being around the corner. Do you think it will be a game changer for computer graphics? A game changer? What do you reckon?
I'm not sure about a game changer. Well, maybe down the track. I don't know. It won't happen overnight, but it'll at least be more powerful. So it'll be a game changer in that sense. But yeah, games aren't going to instantly be like, whoa, they're, it'll be RTX type game changing, ray tracing and all that sort of stuff. All right, Tim, are you going to start doing TV reviews more often or ever?
Probably not. I did ask for an LG CX 48-inch. They just launched in Australia, I think this month or last month. I asked for one of those, but outside of that, probably not doing too many more TV reviews. Steve, did you get the new Nvidia cards for testing yet?
Yeah, wouldn't you like to know? They can't see the box behind me, can they?
I hope not.
Good. Tim, will you test Apple ARM laptops versus AMD and Intel x86 laptops when Apple release their new Macs?
Not unless I can run Windows on it, because otherwise it's not really like an apples to apples comparison with the different operating systems and software.
Get it?
Oh, God. Steve, what is the best mode to leave Ryzen processors on in Ryzen Master? Auto OC or PBO?
I think for most of it doesn't make too much difference, but probably Auto OC would push them a bit harder. Tim, when do you think it'll be a good time to build a new PC?
Probably not right now. I'd be waiting another couple of months to see what's coming out and then go all out. Go all out for that holiday season, I reckon.
Just buy it.
Yeah, so I think that's it for our rapid fire questions.
All right, we're going to hit pause there. Part 1 is now done, and we'll have part 2 on the channel. What's the schedule looking like? Is it coming up straight after this one?
I think it might be. It might be some news in between. I think we're doing like one on Thursday, Saturday, Monday, or something like that. Every couple of days you get a Q&A in your inbox. Okay.
Subscribe. Hit the red thing, subscribe. Hit the bell icon, all, and then you will get to see part 2, because the questions in part 2, oh my, like, they're insane.
Yeah,
aren't they, Tim?
Better, at least 3 or 4 times better than these questions.
So, 3 or 4 times, you're not going to want to miss that, guys. Make sure you have subscribed. Yeah. Also, give this one a like, because such a good Q&A session.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think is that everything, Tim? Is that all?
Yeah, I mean, there's Patreon as well. I mean, only if you want to, though, let's be honest. Links in the description if you're interested. And there is a Patreon section of questions coming up, so that's one way into that section. But
that's true. That's true. All right, well, do those things. You've got plenty of things to do now while you wait for part 2 of this series. So thank you very much for watching. I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your host, Tim.
I'll see you again next time.